Hello, all you happy people. Hope you've been doing well and are hanging in there this July. I've been doing mostly okay myself, though, there is something that has been on my mind for a while. I've been using these profile pics on my channel for about 8 years, and I think it's about time for a makeover, don't you think? Yeah, I think you can all agree. So, give me 1 second, I'm gonna do something real quick. There we are. A brand new look and something that I think fits me a little bit more. It feels nice. By the way, I gotta thank my amazing friend and artist, Nikki the Urkin artist, for drawing these for me. I'm still amazed at how talented an artist they are, and also just how much they've grown in 8 years. Well, anyway, let's get back to business. The summer has been in full swing, and last month was honestly a great month for animated films. The 3 movies that we got were pretty fantastic, and definitely showed studios like 20th Century Animation, Pixar, and Sony Pictures Animation still making bangers that undoubtedly are going to be ones I'm going to remember firmly at the end of the year when putting together my top 5 best of list. It seemed like this was going to be another exciting summer for animation. If only, because it was inevitable that a bad movie was going to rear its ugly head in eventually. So with that said, let's talk about Smurfs. Oh god, we have a real doozy of a film today, and without a doubt, one of the biggest animated films of the year I was dreading the most. This really did look awful in ways I could not imagine, even for Paramount animation standards. And I've already talked about my frustration for the studio plenty of times over the course of several videos here, so I ain't gonna repeat myself. If anything, I'm starting to wonder after I put Transformers 1 on my top 5 last year that I ended up bringing this on myself. But there is one silver lining I can say about this. If they keep managing to making films like this, then things could also be getting better. Oh, Antic. Antic. If only you knew. Smurfs was, without a doubt, the biggest animated film of the year I was dreading the most, and the one everyone knew was most likely going to be a massive stinker. And it's really confusing that Paramount is trying again to bring the Smurfs to the big screen, because every previous attempt has been extremely unsuccessful. There was the Smurfs and the Magic Flute back in 1976, and that was really annoying. There were the 2 live-action CG hybrids, directed by Raja Gosnell, which were massive failures on a critical level. And there was Smurfs The Lost Village in 2017 from Sony Pictures Animation, which was a noble attempt, but still a mediocre film overall. It seemed like Peyo's famous characters probably weren't going to get a new film in a while. But then a few years ago, Paramount Animation announced they were trying again with the new Smurfs films, bringing in DreamWorks director Chris Miller to direct it. And he's mainly notable for directing Puss in Boots back in 2011, which I did like. It's not as good as its sequel, but I still think it's a fun little film. My guess for why Paramount got the rights for Smurfs is because they were annoyed they missed out on the previous ones made, since they were gonna make a Smurfs film in the 2000s before the rights were transferred to Columbia. There was still skepticism in the air due to the previous films, but there was also the promise it could be an interesting new take on this franchise. After all, the Ninja Turtles and Transformers got an animated makeover that I ended up really liking. Perhaps this could have been similar. Then the trailer came out.
I think I just smurfed my pants.
I remember when that first trailer dropped back in February and just feeling the internet's collective shock and disgust at how bad this trailer was. It looked abysmal with how unfunny it came across, and just desperate as well. This marketing was really trying to make you not forget certain things were part of this trailer. Namely, the amount of Smurfs that were supposedly in this film, including a Smurf that was called Influencer Smurf. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Influencer Smurf. I could feel the internet's disgust for this character as soon as he was revealed, which included the amount of people giving this character so much backlash and wanting him to be cancelled. I mean, I'm honestly surprised this character didn't have a diss track written towards him with how much he was begging to be cancelled. Say, Smurf, I hear you like him young. Heh. Well, this character is not in the film, but there is one marketing gimmick that is in the film. And if anything, this was the thing that annoyed me the most.
Hey everyone, I'm Rihanna, and I play Smurfette in the new Smurfs movie.
Yeah. The film's major gimmick for trying to get people into the theater was really pushing on the emphasis that the person playing Smurfette is Rihanna. And this marketing really wanted you to know this. Rihanna is Smurfette. Rihanna is Smurfette. Rihanna is Smurfette. Zendaya is Michi. This is not a sell, Paramount. It's an anti-sell. And this has to deal with something I have wanted to discuss in depth in one of my videos. And it revolves around one of my least favorite trends in animation. And there is a lot of history revolving around this stupid trend. So sit back for a little, because I'm going to take you all on a brief history lesson where I discuss a trend in animation that I absolutely loathe the most. Now, back in 2019, before I figured out my style and was still in what I call my monotone phase, I made a really old video where I went into depth about my thoughts on voice acting and animation. And one common complaint when it comes to voice acting in movies that I've seen over the years is whenever a celebrity actor is casted over a voice actor. And while I do think voice actors should get some more recognition in bigger roles, I've never really minded whenever a big name actor is cast in the lead role too much. And it's mainly because my stance on the matter is this, as it is my stance for any performance in any movie. As long as they fit the role and play the part well, I'm not gonna mind. I only will find myself complaining if they're miscast or are not good in the part. Plus, it's been proven that sometimes when a big name actor is cast in one of these roles, they can transform a character in more ways than one. And I will also say that when it comes to that, this is not a new trend. Some people have claimed that this has been a more recent trend that started as far back as the 2000s, or even started with Robin Williams getting cast as the genie in Aladdin, and that's really not the case. Animated films have been casting big-name actors to play their characters for years. Gene Siskel even complained about this in 1982 with The Secret of NIMH.
Dom DeLuise does the voice of a big crow in the picture, and Big Bird, and it seemed to be like, you know, a Jungle Book kind of thing where the voice dominates some of the characters.
So, it really isn't anything new. In fact, you can make the argument that The Jungle Book might have been the first case where big-named actors were brought in, with Phil Harris being cast as Baloo, and Oscar winner George Sanders as Shere Khan. And I bring up The Jungle Book for a specific reason because of how it nearly kick-started this certain trend that I'm going to rant about. If you remember in that film, Mowgli comes across a group of vultures that he befriends, notable for having mop-top haircuts and Liverpoolian accents. And the reason why was because these certain vultures were initially written for the Dave Clark Five. No, of course it was the Beatles, because they were the biggest rock band in the world. Disney wanted to get the group to play the vultures, and it's not like they hadn't had acting experience before, as they had made 2 movies up to that point, both of which I highly recommend for the record. But the group turned it down either due to their commitment of wanting to make more music, not wanting to make another movie after their experience on Help, or that John Lennon just wanted nothing to do with Disney. So they were played by different actors, and their pop song, That's What Friends Are For, was rewritten into a barbershop quartet. And it worked for that film, so I'm not complaining. But even though Disney couldn't get the Beatles in one of their films, the idea of casting a big-name pop star for an animated film lingered on in their head. And 20 years after The Jungle Book, they decided to really put it to the test. In 1988, Disney cast mega pop star Billy Joel to play the role of Dodger in their take on Oliver Twist, Oliver and Company. Joel mainly did the role for his daughter, and even got to write and sing the song Why Should I Worry for the film, and despite not having acting experience, it worked. I like Joel's performance in Oliver and Company. He gave Dodger that New York spunk and also had plenty of charm and charisma to go around. And if I didn't know who Joel was beforehand, I would have thought he was a decent actor. He was great in the film, and it seemed to set the idea of casting pop stars in animated films was actually not a bad idea. That being said, the same magic that was in Oliver and Company has barely been repeated. I don't think there is a trend I hate more in animation than a pop star being cast in a major role in an animated film. I loathe this practice because most of the time whenever a pop star is cast, it's so obvious who's playing the character when you hear them because they do not fit the character at all. They always stick out so badly in the film because they are not actors and will tell you as much, which makes the decision to put them in the movie making even little sense than before. There are times where I don't mind this if the singer has the charm to make it work, they're put in the smallest supporting roles that don't stand out too much, or they even got lucky and picked up a pop star who is actually an accomplished actor like Bette Midler, Mandy Moore, or Selena Gomez. But most of the time, they pick singers that are massive superstars and put them in the biggest roles, and they are usually terrible in the film. This is how we ended up with horrific performances from pop stars like Tiffany, Taylor Swift, Kelly Clarkson, Beyonce, and... well, you know who. If you don't know, Smurfs is not the first animated film Rihanna was cast in, as 10 years prior, she was cast as the teenager Tip in the DreamWorks movie Home. That film was pretty bad, mainly because it wasn't funny, it didn't understand the book it was based on very well, and the performances left a lot to be desired, especially from Rihanna.
I'm just a kid. I'm not supposed to be by myself all the time. This is child endangerment, which is a crime, by the way.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. She was genuinely awful in that film. And I mean really bad. Her performance came across so robotic and stiff that it really made it hard to care about this character and feel her growth. She just came across as an emotionless plank.
It's all your fault. You stole my mom.
I'm emotionally upset. My pet goldfish just died. It's a horrifically bad performance, and it's always been my go-to example on why pop stars should not be cast in animated films. They are not actors. They can sing, and they have the charisma on stage, but not in the recording booth. So, to cast Rihanna, who is very much not an actress, to play Smurfette in this film just seemed to make very little sense. And what made even less sense was that this was the film's major selling point. Based on how hard they were pushing her, I could tell Paramount really wanted to get her fans in the theater because I could tell they knew they had a massive stinker on their hands. Not helping matters was the fact that Paramount didn't even do Thursday night screenings for this film, which is a really, really bad sign. Whenever I go to a film, I typically try to go for the earliest show dates possible, so I can talk about it and review it as early as possible. And I typically try to catch a film on a Thursday night screening, which studios do to build up the word of mouth before the official opening the next day. And Paramount didn't even do that for this film. And to me, that is a major sign that the studio was not very confident in the final film. Not to mention, Paramount stuck a SpongeBob short in front of this that was made all the way back in 2015 and kept in a vault until now, which is also another major sign that they knew they had a dud on their hands and were trying to get people to see this film in any way possible. So, yeah, there were plenty of reasons for me to be scared going into this film. And I can say that those reasons were entirely valid because, quite simply put, this is a film that I would consider a rare kind. A movie that is dead. And I don't mean it's bad. It is, but a bad movie is quite common. You get those every once in a while or so. No, I mean this movie is dead. In the sense that This is a film that basically came out on screen and has no life in it whatsoever because, oh god, this film is a total catastrophe. Guys, I genuinely went into this giving it a fair chance. I really did. I hoped it would be better than what the trailers made it out to be. But no, this film is a true train wreck and one where I just couldn't find anything redeemable about it. This film is a new low in more ways than one, and truly an all-time dud for Paramount Animation. To say that I hated this film would be an understatement. I detested this film. So, what is it about? Well, I'll tell ya. It takes place in Smurf Village, and all the Smurfs are happy living their Smurfs lives and being the one-dimensional archetypes they are. Except one Smurf that doesn't seem to have a personality yet. He's called No Name, played by James Corden, and he's trying to find his own personality despite the support from Papa Smurf, played by John Goodman, and his best friend Smurfette, played by Rihanna. One day, he finally seems to find his ability by getting magic powers, but unwillingly opens a portal above Smurf Village and ends up getting Papa captured by the evil wizard Razamel, played by J.P. Carliak, who just happens to be Gargamel's younger brother. And so the Smurfs have to journey to save Papa from Razamel, who wants his hand on a magic MacGuffin book for evil reasons. Yeah, that's the plot. And it's not a really great one either, as you can clearly tell. But that's to be expected for a film that, like I said, is dead on arrival. So, this is gonna be me less giving this film a review, and more of me giving it an autopsy. And I guess my grade will be the death certificate. Time of death was 3:30 p.m. on Friday, July 18th, 2025. Anyway, let's dig into this and try to figure out what went wrong, starting with the story, which is unbelievably contrived and unoriginal. The plot for this film is one of the most unoriginal and uninspiring animated films I've seen in a long time, where barely anything creative happens. You would think after 3 failed attempts to make a Smurf film, they would finally crack it with the 4th attempt. Nope. If anything, they only made it worse. There is nothing that is original in here whatsoever. It's basically a plot hobbled together of the most unoriginal cliches imaginable, and they don't do anything creative or interesting with them. It's basically the most boring kidnap and rescue plot, with the Smurfs traveling from location to location without learning anything at all, while stopping a big bad villain from unleashing evil powers. That's it. And even then, when the characters go to these locations, they don't really do anything there or learn anything there. The film takes the Smurfs to Paris, the Australian outback, and Munich, but there's genuinely no point of taking them there in the first place. The only reason I can imagine they took them there was just simply because other films have taken cartoon characters to the real world, and why not do that again? This entire film could have been set in the world of the Smurfs, and nothing would have changed in the plot. I mean, nothing. There is no point of having them go to places like Paris or Munich. Not just that, as I previously said, they don't really do anything or learn anything in these locations. It's just mainly to recruit some pointless characters to have them rescue Papa, and then move on to the next destination because we need to get the plot to 90 minutes. I mean, they go into a nightclub at one point, but that's really only there to throw in Don't Stop the Music by Rihanna. Because even when the film is playing, the film still wants to remind you who's playing Smurfette. It's barely functional, and all it accomplishes is wasting my time. Not just that, the film doesn't even seem to respect its own source material as well. I read interviews with Paramount Animation president Ramsey Nido and the film's director Chris Miller, and they talked about bringing Peyo's creation to life and wanting to do it justice, but it feels like there was no justice brought to it at all. It reeks of executive meddling, as it highly contradicts the lore that Peyo created. I mean, at the beginning of the film, No Name tries to suggest being a magic Smurf to Papa Smurf, and Papa is like, well, we don't really have a magic Smurf yet. And I was just sitting there speechless because, Papa, aren't you the magical Smurf? It's established in the comics and previous incarnations that Papa is the one with magic abilities, and this film basically tosses that aside. Not just that, it also seems to contradict Smurfette's whole backstory, which goes to show you how little respect this material was given. It also doesn't help that this film is exceptionally unfunny. Every joke in this film is a massive dud and desperately tries to be hip and cool. And some of the jokes don't even make sense.
That was absolutely terrifying.
I think I swallowed my gum.
What? What are you talking about, Smurfette? You weren't even chewing gum before this. Why is that line in the film? I should also say there's a whole tangent that Rosmel goes on about Zoom, and he's basically saying stuff like, well, the Zoom microphones have to be in the Zoom room so I can make Zoom calls. Is this trying to be funny? Because it's not at all. Even the message feels contrived, and it's even more embarrassing because both Elio and K-pop Demon Hunters respectively did elements that are in this film and handles them so much better than this ever could. Hell, the film is so uncreative that it even ends on a dance party ending. This screenplay is so badly written that I'm surprised anyone was able to approve this. It barely functions at all. Speaking of barely functional elements of the film, let's get to the animation. On the one hand, I get what this film was trying to do. It was obviously going for a stylized look in order to bring Peyo's creations to life. I appreciate the attempt, but needless to say, they failed. The film's animation looks incredibly off. It looks exceptionally uncanny and rubbery, and the film never feels like it's alive. Like, look at this. Their faces are all just blank smiles. This just does not look right. Like, it doesn't even look right. Not just that, when the characters go into the real world, the blending doesn't look that good either. They stick out like a sore thumb, and some of the elements they interact with don't look right at all. Especially when they get to the outback, with one moment involving kangaroos. That looked so off. There's even a moment where the film tries to go experimental and having the Smurfs go into different dimensions so it can play with different art styles, and even that feels tired and lame. The anime section in particular was really aggravating. Even Horton Hears a Who did an anime reference better than this. Like, this whole film just doesn't do anything unique in its animation. It just looks off and it barely stands out in any way possible. And that goes the same with the characters. For all that the film tries to put the focus on Smurfette, she's not even the main character of the film. Oh, sure, she's in a majority of it, but she's only there for emotional support. And I say that in quotes because Rihanna's performance is so awful, I don't even know if she can convey emotion in a film. Her performance has about as much emotional depth as Neil Breen.
We gotta rescue Papa.
I'm not ready for this.
No, the main character is actually No Name, and it's just the same trying to find my place message that has been done before and been done better. And Corden seems so wrong for this role. I kept thinking it should have been played by someone younger, or hell, even less annoying, because Corden really got under my skin during this film. As for the other characters, most of them do practically nothing. Papa is kept in a jar throughout the film and is just literally bait. The other Smurfs tag along but do nothing. There's even a freaking turtle that gets sucked along for part of the journey, and he was completely pointless. You can cut him out of the film and nothing changes. Even Gargamel doesn't do anything. Yeah, the Smurfs' major nemesis takes a backseat for his stupid younger brother, who is actually the main villain of this film, and his main motivation for getting this book is literally to destroy all happiness in the world and replace it with negativity. I am not kidding. Not only is this a terrible villain plan, but more importantly, why is this character even a thing. Why couldn't the main villain of this film simply be Gargamel? Why does he even need to have a more evil brother to destroy the Smurf? There's genuinely no point to this character. Or hell, most of these characters. A large majority of them serve no purpose to this film. And that's not even getting to these creatures the Smurfs meet, called the Snooterpoots, or Papa Smurf's long-lost brother Ken, played by Nick Offerman. Yeah, he's just called Ken. Why is he called Ken? Like, Papa doesn't have an ordinary name. He's still called Papa. I don't understand this. I think that really just goes to show how little care went into this. When one of the Smurfs is just simply named Ken. How creative. And that little care also includes the voice acting. Everyone sounds tired during this film. Like, it's insane. You know, as flawed and imperfect as Smurfs The Lost Village was, I could tell Sony Pictures Animation and the late Kelly Asbury were trying their best to be respectful to the material and do something new with it. It didn't fully work, but at least it had a story that made sense for the Smurfs, and even the animation was nicely done. In retrospect, I do think that was the best Smurfs film we could have gotten, because this is a flat-out embarrassment. I don't feel like this had anything going for it. The only thing I did get out of it was a horrible Trolls knockoff. Honestly, I have to ask, what does Paramount Animation do after this? I am really not sure. This is definitely a rock bottom film for them, so obviously there's nowhere to go but up, but I'm not sure how far up they can go. I mean, this film does tease a sequel at the end, but that's not happening. Like, a film this bad? No way. If anything, Paramount should be flat out embarrassed by this, because Smurfs is a genuine disaster all around. I hated this movie. The story is unoriginal and exceptionally uncreative and really disrespectful to the source material. The animation is really uncanny and doesn't look right, and the characters are mostly pointless, have bad performances, and are just straight annoying. This is a really, really awful movie, and it is absolutely not worth your time whatsoever. Avoid at all costs. If anything, I feel quite confident calling this the worst animated film released by a major studio since The Emoji Movie. And I'm just gonna say it, I think I'd rather rewatch The Emoji Movie than this. This film really is that bad. I think it goes without saying, but Smurfs absolutely gets a 1. This is an embarrassment in every meaning of the word. I think it's clear that Hollywood needs to give up on the Smurfs, because this is the 4th time they've tried to bring them to the screen, and it's the worst failure yet. From its uncreative premise, horrible voice acting, and just embarrassing animation, this is a film I could not give a Smurf to watch again. Save me, Bad Guys 2. You're my only hope.
Just make sure you tip the driver ahead of time, or they'll lick everything.